All right. Welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Mullen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how are we doing, man?
We're doing. I don't know. I don't know how we're doing. It's a little weird right now. Feeling weird.
You got that right. So, in case you guys missed the news, obviously we'll get to this in a little bit, but a few hours ago, the Milwaukee Bucks made the shocking decision to fire head coach Adrian Griffin. Now, I don't know if you, Evan, I don't know if you've had the time to do the math on this yet, but in my mind, I was thinking it's got to be one of the shortest head coaching tenures ever. Not as short as Jerry Tarkanian, who only coached the Spurs for 20 games.
Yeah, okay.
But we've seen moves like this before, okay? It hasn't happened. The last time that I believe a coach has been fired mid-season like this was Maurice Cheeks was fired by the Detroit Pistons 50 games into the 2013-2014 season. So that was really the last time that happened. And real quick to comment on that, what's shocking to me is that Milwaukee is supposed to be a championship contending team, and they make a move like this. Okay. Now, moves like that have been made before because if you remember in past podcasts, I compared Adrian Griffin to David Blatt because, David Blatt didn't have any experience coaching the NBA. So Adrian Griffin had that at least, but it was the same in terms of he didn't have the respect to the players.
Nope.
Okay. I don't think the players felt as though he was the guy that was going to lead them to a championship. And I feel like that's kind of where Giannis was with Adrian Griffin, was like similar to how LeBron felt with David Blatt, where it was just an overarching feeling of this isn't the guy that's going to get us over the top. There's just way too many questions there that we have to sift through. And I think that's why Milwaukee made this move. And as I kind of talk about it, as I think about it, it's just like, look, John Horst doesn't make this decision without Lillard, Middleton, Giannis, without any of those guys, without any of those veteran players. He doesn't make that decision without those guys signing off on it. This isn't a decision John Horst just made in a vacuum where it's like, no, we need to make this move. He probably, I'm sure he consulted with all the veteran players before he was like, yeah, we got to do this. This isn't guy. It's not working. There's just way too many questions here. And again, me and you have been saying the whole year, okay, it's fine. Milwaukee has a good record, but how are they winning these games?
Exactly.
And we were not comfortable with how they were winning these games. Okay. And I'm sure John Horst felt the same way, where, okay, why are we allowing 135 points to the Detroit Pistons?
Yes.
Like, that's a team you should be blowing out. And even when I talked to my dad, it's like, what's going on at the Bucks? It's like, really? Like, against a 2-3 win team for the Detroit Pistons, 141 to 135? Like, and I don't even think Cade Cunningham is in there.
He didn't play any of them. Both of them. It took me so long in the first game to realize he wasn't even playing.
So that was the concerning part for Adrian Griffin, was like if he ended up coaching Milwaukee in the playoffs, okay, and this defense had a significant drop off. At least with Mike Budenholzer, it was top five every year, so that was never a concern. But it just felt like this defense. We're halfway through the season. This defense is still 22nd. They're not improving. And there was just way too many questions. So we didn't really spoil with like how we felt it was the right decision or not. We're just saying why they made the choice that they made. So really, before we get into the crux of that, we're going to get into the games first. First up, a terrible blowout loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Just like
And they're hot right now too. I didn't even realize. I think they're on like an 8-game win streak without Garland and Evan Mobley. So good for them, but Jesus Christ, the game was over in 4 minutes. I counted 4 minutes into the first quarter. I'm like, this is a blowout.
It was 20-2.
Yes.
And really, as I get to the whole Adrian Griffin thing, it just felt like the team didn't know how to play. Like if Lillard were missing or if Giannis was missing, it just felt like the team completely forgot how to play basketball.
I think Giannis is out this game. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Giannis was out, but I'm saying,
but still, yes.
In totality,
yes.
If one of those two guys were missing, because sometimes Lillard and Giannis are not gonna play every game. Middleton's not gonna play every game, but it just felt like if one of those two core guys were missing, either Lillard or Giannis, it just felt like Milwaukee forgot how to play basketball. Okay, I didn't really understand what was going on because it's just like, okay, like I get you're missing Giannis, but we still have other pieces there. So why are we losing 22 to Cleveland? Just getting boat raced out of there. Like that's the main concern was there. And look, Darius Garland's been out. Mm-hmm. So it's just Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen, and is Evan Mobley, is he even playing?
No, he's been out too, injury wise as well.
Okay, so that's a concern. That was a concern. Is the fact that you can't get boat race like that against Cleveland, like that quick in the first, and it just and again, Milwaukee's going through this weird stretch where it's like. They're going to be playing either Cleveland or Detroit a lot, like majority of the games for the moment.
Yep.
But 135 to 95, like without just Giannis playing, like I honestly think that particular game was like kind of beginning the end for Adrian Griffin.
Yep, that was the thin ice. Yeah, I was trying to find. I hate when the Bucks play like close, like back-to-back games because you look up the box score and you get different box scores. But I was looking at. Here we go. This is what I want. Actually, that's a lie. That's not what I want. This is what I want. All right, so I was looking at it, and of course, this is the game where the Bucks give up these record-breaking nights to these role players. Niang, role player, not some all-star, not anything higher than a pretty solid, above-average role player. Mm-hmm. He's not like horrible, but he's not like, oh my God, like everyone wants this guy. He had, let me pull it back up. He was 13 for 14. 5 of 6 on 3, and he had 33 points. He had, I think, his career high in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. From listening to Lisa, and I think it was Steve Novak that game. That irritated me. He just could not miss. It's because half his shots were wide open. Yeah. That happens in the Pistons games as well. And it was just they let Donovan Mitchell shoot, and then they don't guard him, and he's hitting all these open shots. And, you're like 10 points, 21, 31, 10, 33. Like Mitchell and Niang had, 64 points combined. And then their bench did well, too. And our bench did horrible. I found the Fox Sports for the recaps, and they give you the bench points. Bucks had 57 bench points. Pretty good. Outscored the starters, obviously, because you don't have Giannis. But you look at some of the bench scores, and it's like Marjan, 23 minutes, 0 points. Pat, 14 minutes, 8 points. It's like different balanced. AJ Green, 13 minutes, 3 points. It's like they were just throwing guys in at the end. But, man, no one could score just in general. I'm not even going to say outside of anyone. No one had a good game that game. Lillard had the highest had the highest amount of points scored with 17. But he was 7 for 20. And 1 for 5 on threes. He couldn't buy a basket if he wanted to that game. It was like layup, miss. And nothing was going well for this game. Nothing was adjusted. It was just, all right, just keep it competitive. Jay Crowder, I think this was his first game back. I have thoughts on Jay Crowder as he's played a few more games coming back, but it was, my God, yeah, it was. I turned it off at halftime. I stopped watching it. So I don't know what happens. The rest of the game, I just was like, all right, cool. I don't even want to watch this anymore. Chris Middleton had 2 points. He had 1 basket. It's like, what are we doing?
And the concern with that, like, kind of started very early with us because it just felt like with some of these games, they were coming out really flat. Just no energy, not really giving a shit, just going out there and just playing free-flowing basketball. And honestly, it really wouldn't surprise me if it was found out that that it was similar to the Nets situation last year, where we didn't really have any plays. We just kind of ran free-flowing basketball.
Yeah, hope it goes in.
That would not surprise me because it just felt like they didn't have a clue on how to get easy baskets. Okay. It just looked like, here, Dame, you just play one-on-one and, everybody else kind of, find what you're supposed to do because it just Giannis said this earlier in the season, discombobulated. It just felt like everything, we just weren't organized enough offensively. And that was the concern part. And like the fans know if you're disorganized, okay. It just felt like we were relying way too much on Giannis's vintage performances.
Yeah, a lot of this is just, all right, let's hope Giannis does it for us. I feel like with Adrian Griffin, like he is being carried on Damian Lillard and Giannis. Like I think those two just flat. You get stints from Chris, you get some from Brooke, you get some from Malik Beasley every so often, but it's like they are banking on those two of having good games every single game. And that's how I feel like we win these games. And I feel like we don't win a lot of these games if we don't have Damian Lillard. If you were to flip Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday in some of these games, we would probably have at least 5+ more losses than we do right now.
And look, I know everybody wants to pile on Adrian Griffin, okay? But I'm going to be honest, there's a part of me that does feel bad for him because this was his first head coaching job. Mm-hmm. And he had so much pressure, even before the season started, where it was like, oh my God, the pressure was on. Like, we got to win a championship right away. Like, it doesn't matter how we do it, but like, this is the coach that's going to lead us to a championship. Mm-hmm. And it felt like if he could have gone to a better situation, like a situation where he could have developed.
Like if you flip him and Monty, he goes to the Pistons. Realistically, let's say Monty Williams comes here. It's like you are in a spot where you are not supposed to succeed. And if you do, it's a plus. And if you don't, okay, now you know what to do.
Because now it just felt like, and again, I don't know what his credentials were for getting this job other than the fact that, okay, there really weren't a lot of options out there for Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I mean, they threw out some veteran names like Mike D'Antoni or, like it just weren't a lot of options for Milwaukee to even go with. Maybe Terry Stotts, which, by the way, that's kind of when all this started to me. Is like when he fired Terry Stotts before the season started, kind of reading the Athletics report, like those two just didn't see eye to eye. And, there's a lot of disagreements there. So Terry Stotts felt as though he had to leave. But, it just like if he could have gone to a franchise and like develop as a coach, that would have been one thing. But like he never got that chance in Milwaukee. He was just like Giannis doesn't believe in you. The whole players doesn't believe in you. You're fired. Like it just. Like, again, I understand that people want to pile on and stuff, but, again, I hope Adrian Griffin, finds a landing spot somewhere because at the end of the day, maybe he wasn't meant to be a head coach or maybe he wasn't right
fit.
Yeah. To be a championship contending coach for this team, but I don't know because – if that were the case, then I think people were talking about this. Then why did we get rid of Budenholzer? Mm-hmm. And I didn't necessarily hate the move to fire Mike Budenholzer because a lot of people like to do revisionist history where it's like, well, if we knew this was going to be the result, we should have kept Budenholzer. I'm like, no, you can't fail in the playoffs year after year after year.
Yes.
And like you can't get bounced in the first round to the 8th seed. in 5 games and expect to keep your job. Like every Milwaukee Bucks fan was like, fire Bud, fire Bud, fire Bud. Like it wasn't like this wasn't like, why did they make this move? Everybody agreed that firing Budenholzer was the right move at the right time. But it's just John Horst unfortunately just didn't make the right choice in picking his next head coach.
Mm-hmm. They rushed it, I feel like.
He wanted an outside the box hire. Okay. He didn't want like another retread coach, but this is kind of the calculated risk you take when you hire an outside the box guy is, if shit doesn't form right away, then it's like, okay, this is not going to work. We got to let him go.
Yeah. And obviously we'll talk about that later with like the somewhat replacements or like the rumors of who might be the next one. But yeah, it's one of those things where you hope it works and it's not working. I feel like you'd rather do it now than risk it. And I think make some trades, and now you're giving up guys who could be used differently under a different coach. But I don't know. It was weird. It was so random. But yeah, these last 3 games were like the icing on top, I guess, or the cherry on top of, okay, this needs to go. And I feel like it's clearly been talked about too, especially with seeing like how fast they had other not offers, like official offers, but like rumors of this person will probably be picked. This had to have been going on for the last week or so, but I don't know. I got a feeling in the next week or two, the Bucks team is going to be entirely different. I think they're going to make some trades soon. They have to make a trade. If they don't, then that's on them. But someone's going to get traded. Obviously, we're going to have a new coach now, but yeah, these last 3 games, 2 of them obviously were a win, but yeah, these were statement games at the end of January. Again, judgment time is what we like to say. But yeah, just overall, just not good. Mm-hmm. And I think John Horst will make the correct decision now. I'm iffy with their front runner right now, because he was one I didn't want originally.
Yep. Yep. So before we get into that, let's kind of talk about these next 2 games. So the next game that Milwaukee played was last Saturday against the Detroit Pistons. Yes. Really had to squeak by the skin of their ass. 141 to 135, which I'm going to be honest is an unacceptable score. But it just felt like looking at the box score here, there's a lot of uneven performances here. Lillard had 45, Giannis had 31, but other than that, I don't know. Like, okay, Lopez 19, but they're just, it just wasn't like a lot of even performances. And like you've mentioned, role players going off. Alec Burks having 33 points. That was crazy. That just felt like they fixed that. They had to have fixed that game. They had to have somebody from the Mafia be like, have Alec Burks score 33 points. The fix was in. I understand Alec Burks is an NBA player. I get that. Don't get me wrong. But Alec Burks is not a player worthy of scoring 33 points. Like that. Yeah, that's nuts to me.
7 3-pointers, just could not miss. He kind of cooled off later on in the game in the second half, but it was like every shot he was getting was wide open. Like there was no contest. It was like, take a shot. You're making them. Keep going. And it's like, it just never stopped. Mike Muscala had a good game, just 4 for 4 the entire game shooting all 3-pointers. So like he had 13 with a free throw. It's like all these guys are just racking up points. I looked at the Bucks. So the Bucks had their 5 starters who played and then 4 bench guys. The Bucks starting 5 at 123 of the points, and their bench had 18 points. 10 coming from Pat, 4 Bobby, 2 Andre, Jake Crowder had 2. It was like no one played, but their bench has just been shit recently. And I feel like that's one of the other reasons too why these games are being so close, is because you got Giannis playing 38 minutes, 37, 37, 34, 33 from the starters, and you throw these guys in and they give up all these leads like so quickly. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a horrible game just overall. And to have it come down to the last few minutes in the fourth quarter against the Pistons with no Cade Cunningham. Also, just, yeah, again, another non-defensive game. You're giving up 135 points to the Pistons without their star player. Yeah. He also had 49 free throws. and you missed 14 and you won by 6 points.
And keep in mind of this too. The Detroit Pistons have 4 wins on the year.
Yes.
Okay? How do you like
And
that's
we're
what's
almost 3 of them.
more like that team is not look at this roster. Bogdanovich, Kevin Knox, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, Killian Hayes, Asir Thompson, Alec Burks, Gallinari, Sasser, Buscala, James Wiseman. How does that team combined score 135 points? That team should break at least 80. Okay, they should break at least 80, but 135 to that team, and we watch these, and they're not. It's not like we're making the opponent shoot hard shots. These are easy shots that they're taking, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Just
it
straight
is.
line. And it's like Giannis said, defensively, it's like he didn't know what the plan was. Kind of reading the athletic thing, he was like, okay, so we got to give up one thing. What are we giving up? Okay, just are we going to allow the team to shoot a lot of threes? Okay, fine, but we can defend the other stuff. But Evan, it was everything at once. Allowing too many threes, straight line drives, nobody's guarding the paint, mid range. It was open season.
Yeah, it's like they just let them. If you watch the games, Brook Lopez will sit in the restricted area and maybe, I don't know, halfway up the paint. And if there is a shot that is not like a quick contest, like one step, now I'm in your face, he will just let you shoot it. And that goes for everyone. They will just let you shoot. And it's, again, like you said, open season. It's like, it is so blatantly, it looks fake. Like, it looks like the Bucks are trying to, like, there's something that's going on where it's like, oh, we got to make sure this team gets it. Like, it looks fixed. It's so bad. And there's no change. It's like, okay, maybe for the next game against the Pistons, it'll be a little different and we'll blow them out again like we did in December. It's like, nope. Again, just, oh, I can't get to you. Just take the shot. It's all right. I'll hope you miss. I hope you don't, but you're professional, so you're probably going to make it still, whether you're on the Pistons or not. But yeah, Brook Lopez, man, he's sitting there and he's got his one little spot. And if you're not coming to him, he will let you go. Or if he gets around you, he won't move. It's just like, well, I'll give him that one. And he does that 16 times a game. But that's not just him, but it's primarily him because he's the one that's guarding the paint. But Kevin Knox, first of all, is just one of those guys where I forgot was in the NBA, and he's still starting. He had 3 points. So, but yeah, I don't even know. I don't know what to say on this game. Even the next game either. It's so bad.
Let's just get into the next one.
All right.
So here's what we're gonna do on this podcast. Okay, we're just gonna rip the Band-Aid. We're gonna rip a couple of the Band-Aids off. So Milwaukee was able to win the game yesterday, 122 to 113, which actually ended up being Adrian Griffin's final game coach as the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see. Okay, Giannis had 31, Middleton had 26. Jesus, he really – and this one he really shortened the rotations too. Four guys got in. Let's see. I guess it's a positive that all 5 guys are in double figures. But I guess they held everyone else in check, like Marcus Sasser at 23. So a little better than yesterday, but at the same time, if I'm the Bucks, I don't know if I'm getting over the sting of allowing 135 points.
Yeah, even 113, I feel like is a lot. Again, with the same thing with the bench, like you don't play Marjan, you don't play Campaign. Like there's 2 or 3 guys that realistically probably could have seen minutes, but you just don't play them. Like you're going with the 9-guy rotation. Okay, fine. But one of them plays 9 minutes, one of them plays 12 minutes. So realistically, you're playing a 7-man game with the 20 and 25s for Bobby and Andre. But they're not scoring. They're not giving not wide open shots. They're missing a lot of wide open shots. They're missing all their close shots. They get to the line, cool, but sometimes they miss a free throw. It's like, okay, fine. But it's at this point, again, they're just banking on Giannis having a good game. And if he doesn't, Damian Lillard has not been good the last few games either. So he's not like off the hook or anything, but his shooting is atrocious. If he did not get to the free throw line as much as he had, he would be having a horrible season. Let's see, where was it? 2 for 10 on 3-pointers this game. The last game, it was, where'd he go? 5 for 11. Okay, cool. But 16 for 16 on free throws. It's like he's half his points are free throws. But I don't know. Just another game that came down to the last few minutes until the Bucks went on like a 11-2 run or something like that just to finish them out. But again, still we're coming down to the wire with the Pistons. The Cade Cunningham less Pistons as well. So I don't know. Bad games. The last 3 games, again, 2 of them have been wins, but just 3 bad games.
Yeah, like we mentioned before. Okay, we don't like. I don't get up for the regular season that much anymore, but just because of the fact that I know what Milwaukee's gonna do. Like I get up for the postseason, but like more or less, if our wins are that concerning in the regular season, that's what's like concerning. Where it's like, oh god, like it just felt like a majority of Milwaukee's games this year were just all-star game scores.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and again, like if everybody wants to use the excuse, well, that's how most of the games in the NBA are. Not like okay, like 95% of the games are like that because that's what it felt like. It just felt like Milwaukee just like we're winning, but it was just like a really high ass score that, like honestly, it probably could have set a record for how often these teams are scoring. So, I mean, look, that like I said, that ended up being Adrian Griffin's last game coached.
At least he ends on a win.
I don't know if he'll get another head coaching job. Time will tell.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll have to see. So,
all right, let's get into the meat of the podcast.
Not quite, because I do have one thing that I had one thing we wanted to talk about. So you know the rumor mill is going to be flying this week, Evan. You know, with the trade deadline coming up. The Milwaukee Bucks were linked to Dejounte Murray.
They were.
So, first question, would you like that move for the Bucks? And what do you think like a potential trade package for him would look like?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Bucks don't have any picks, correct?
They do not have any picks, no.
Okay. It's going to have to be like Bobby. I feel like the people in the mix are Bobby, Pat, Campaign, and Marjan. I feel like those are, let me just look at their roster again. If I realistically look at those guys, I feel like they are the ones who are on the hot seat. Throw in Robin Lopez. Depends on who they get. I don't think they will, but just in the mix. It'll be iffy because like I'm fine with getting rid of Pat Connaughton. I'm unfortunately fine of getting rid of Campaign. I was really hoping he'd have a better season, but he's just too streaky. Marjan, that is very tricky because you want him to exceed, but I feel like every time he's getting minutes, he's just not meeting expectations. And with Andre Jackson Jr. just skyrocketing on what they want him to do, I feel like that just lowers Marjan's chance of getting minutes. So at that point, you're going to have to trade him. Because I feel like if that's going to be a key piece, then yes. Otherwise, you're just going to have to play him consistently and hope that something clicks and that he deserves, I guess, minutes. But at this point, with the minutes that he was getting, I don't know. You're going to have to trade him. I'm not opposed to it. I think Dejounte Murray would be a good option. It would just be, can they trade for him, realistically probably giving up 2 guys, I would say. Then you're going to have to fill another spot. So I'm assuming the buyout market's going to be big. Kyle Lowry's probably going to get bought out by the Hornets after he was traded today. So it's like, are these guys, where are they going to go? Who's going to be available? But they have to make a trade, and they have to make it for defense. I feel like they have the offense. Clearly, they're going to need the defense, and I know he's one of the top defensive guards in the league. So we'll see. But I would not be opposed to it.
Yeah, and I would welcome the trade for Dejounte Murray because not only do I think him and Lillard could play well off each other, it kind of moves Malik Beasley into a role that I feel like that's more suitable for him. Like I don't think Malik Beasley should be like our fifth starter. Like I think Dejounte Murray would be an immediate upgrade over Malik Beasley, and I think that Dejounte Murray. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he was first team all defense at one point with San Antonio. I don't think he's played up to that with Atlanta. But, San Antonio, who's kind of known for playing fundamentally sound basketball, like brought out the best basketball in Dejounte Murray.
Yeah, in 2022, he was the NBA steals leader. And then in 2018, he was the NBA all defensive second team.
Yep. So that would be a good trade for Milwaukee, playing with a bunch of good defenders. Like I would for sure welcome that trade for the Bucks. And the only question I have is like for the potential trade packages, I don't know, is like Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis enough?
Yeah, see, that's the only thing where I feel like it would be if the Hawks just plan on gutting it all. Like if they trade Trae Young, and I saw he's kind of rumored with the Lakers. I feel like it would only of course he is. I feel like it would only work if like they're just are going to start all over again.
A third team would need to be involved because I don't think you could just trade Dejounte Murray straight up for Marjan and Bobby and Pat. I don't think that's enough. I think a third team needs to be involved to kind of sweeten the pot just a little bit. Similar to what Milwaukee did last year, where it was a 3-team trade to get Jay Crowder. Like Dejounte Murray is a better player than Jay Crowder was, so it's definitely going to be like a 3-team trade to see if Dejounte would go to Milwaukee. But if anybody can pull it off, it's John Horst. Because if he can pull off the Lillard trade, he could for sure as hell pull off this. I did have one more that kind of intrigued me. The Pelicans were talking about moving Herb Jones.
Okay.
So I kind of wanted your thoughts on that. He's a very good defender. He's probably one of the best young defenders in the NBA. Just very underrated from that aspect. Multi-position defender. So I'd welcome that trade, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I honestly don't hate that either. Again, he's one of those guys who isn't going to score a lot. He's averaging like 10 this season, but again, your primarily goal is to get a defensive guard. It's going to be some of these guys who are younger because they can't. Dejounte Murray, I think, is 27. Herb Jones, I just looked up. He's 25. You need guys who are younger. You can't be trading for guys who are in their 30s who are going to have a primary role. Now, you can, but if their primary goal is to be a defender and catch up with some of the younger players who are 7 years younger than them, it's going to be something where you kind of have to look out for that. But I would not be opposed to this one. Again, decent shooter. He doesn't shoot a lot, but he shoots consistently. I didn't hear about that rumor, but I wouldn't be opposed. I've seen a lot of like underrated shooters kind of go up. I saw Bruce Brown will probably be bought out. You got Royce O'Neal. You got all these other role-playing guards. But I wouldn't be opposed to any of those guys. I feel like that the Bucks are rumored to get. It would just be who are they going to have to give up for him?
I kind of do want to clear this up. There was no rumor about Herb Jones being linked to Milwaukee.
It was just the idea of him being traded.
Just potentially like, I heard the Pelicans are interested in like Milwaukee needs defenders. Would he be the best fit type of thing?
Sure.
So there was no rumor that was posted on Twitter or anything like that. I was just kind of spitballing where, hey, Herb Jones, maybe you can go to Milwaukee. So getting to the meat of the podcast. So first off, we're all just sitting around on, this glorious Tuesday afternoon. Okay. Not a care in the world. Then all of a sudden, this is why he's the best.
Woj bomb.
Adrian Wojnarowski dropped the Woj bomb of Woj bombs and tweeted out, the Milwaukee Bucks have dismissed head coach Adrian Griffin, sources told ESPN. Shams had the story too. Okay, Shams tweeted it out. Like, so my initial thoughts, I was shocked. I was shocked that a championship contending team like Milwaukee would make this move earlier in the season.
Yes.
Like, I thought if it wasn't going to work, it would probably be like next season.
Yeah, get him through the one.
But yeah, just get him through the first year, and if he's still struggling, hey, just fire him next year. But there was just too much distrust within the organization. There were just way too many questions about like what's his plan, what's going on with the scheme, like this team's disorganized, like and look, this is not just me saying this. The Athletic actually posted a story where they highlighted about like the Terry Stotts firing, and this kind of started with the play-in tournament, and Giannis and Dame, they didn't exactly back Adrian Griffin. So from that standpoint, it was just a situation that was too far gone, and I don't think they were going to rectify this together. Like, at this point in the year, Adrian Griffin as a coach is who he is.
Yes.
Okay. Could not handle the pressure of coaching a championship contending team. This sucks. It sucks that this is the business of the NBA. But, players run the league now. And I've talked about this before. John Horst talked with Giannis. He probably talked with Dame. He talked with all the veteran players. And he was like, I don't think we can get it done with this guy. I just, there's just way too many questions there. And, even I saw Adrian Griffin do some uncharacteristic things where he's like, I think he knew his job was hanging on by a thread. So he's desperate. So, he's trying to, he's yelling. Oh, he's getting after Giannis. Oh, he's like, he's trying to light a fire on any of these guys. I think it was too late. I think they probably had a conversation with him. Was look, if you don't turn the defense around, like we're gonna have to ban you. So I think Adrian Griffin was just like trying to save his job by being like, no, I'm there for my guys. I'm there for my guys. It's just I just don't think he was that type of like fiery coach.
Yeah.
I just think that's something you kind of have to. He felt as though he had to do in order to try to save his job. So. What was your immediate reaction when they fired Adrian Griffin, and was it the right decision?
So I was just at work, and my brother texted me. He's like, "Bucks fired Adrian Griffin." I was surprised that it happened right now, but I wouldn't say I was like shocked. I feel like you look at the Bucks because then I immediately go to social media. I'm like, okay, like what are people saying? What are people saying? If you don't watch, even for Bucks fans, if you're a Bucks fan and you don't watch the games, you have first of all, I don't know. If you're a Bucks fan and you don't watch the games and you're questioning this, it's because you don't watch the games. Yeah. Sure, the Bucks are 30-13. But if you look at all their games and you see the scores of these games, I think that was one of the main reasons. So again, we can just go back to 122-113 against the Pistons, 141-135 against the Pistons. You gave up 135 to the Cavs. You gave up 142 to the Kings in overtime. You gave up 118, 132, 121 to the Spurs, 142 to the Pacers. It's like I could just keep going on and on and on of all the games where the Bucks have given up. Let's be like a median of like 115 and up, but you look at all these games and it's like 126, 129, 128, 100. It's like saying 120 and 130 multiple times should be one. That's kind of a red flag to have. And the second thing is, I think he has completely lost the locker room. I think no one respects him. No one is, I guess, I'll word it this way. I don't think anyone's respecting him enough from the locker room and then having it translate on the court. if you noticed against the Pistons yesterday, there was a camera that went to Giannis sitting on the bench, drawing up plays with Thanasis. So when you have your star player drawing up plays, does that mean he just wants to try to find something new? Or does that mean Adrian Griffin clearly isn't drawing up good enough plays to where it has to remote to Giannis doing it? Or someone else doing it and hope that something works? But a cut angle of your star player and his brother drawing up plays on the bench is not a good look overall. But realistically, I think the reason they fired him is because of the defense and how much points they give up. It can't happen. Again, you're 30-13, awesome. But some of these wins are you scraped out that win in the last 4 minutes of this game. Again, against the Pistons, you won by 6 points. Cool. It goes down as a win, but how much of a win is that, I guess, worth? But I think that is my main reason is the defense, the lack of defense. I shouldn't even say the defense. The lack of defense and the amount of points they're giving up. You could have poor defense, but maybe not give as much points. It just depends on how much of these shots they're giving up or how much shots they're making. But realistically, if you don't have a defense, these are professional NBA players, whether they are the 16th man on the Pistons or the number one player on the best team, they're going to make wide open shots. It's just pretty plain and simple right there. And I think that's my overall is you're giving up too many points. You have no defense. If you don't find a solution to kind of cut it down, see ya, you're gone. And clearly the Bucks didn't because they fired him today. Again, you can look at the last 3 games of how many points they gave up with 135 in 2 straight games and then 113. 113 doesn't seem that bad, but it still is a lot of points, especially to the Pistons without their star player. But yes, that is my thought. It's mainly defense and like the amount of points they're giving up. So if you're questioning that because of their record, you don't watch the games and you should not talk.
And also keep this in mind too, is in case you guys really don't know, Milwaukee, like, how do I word this? They like flip owners between like who's like really in charge. Like there's 2 owners, but like there's one in charge of like who's going to be making like the main decisions, I think. So this year, his first year really owning the Bucks is Jimmy Haslam. So I think in conjunction, I don't think Jimmy Haslam's like a freewheeling aggressive owner, but I don't think he made this decision alone. Like it was really everybody. And I don't think there's really anybody that was overly mad about Milwaukee making this move, at least not from what I've read. It's like, it was more shock, but it was just like, okay, this was probably the right move.
Yes.
Because there was so much frustration from the Bucks fans. And again, I'll say this, okay? Do I think a majority of the Milwaukee Bucks fans are now spoiled? Absolutely. Because they never really had to go through hardships like we did, where we had to watch actual crappy Bucks teams. Like we're 30-13. Like just think of a world where you were a Bucks fan 10 years ago. We're 30-13, and we fire our coach. Like that's an insane world to not live in, where the Milwaukee Bucks are not only one of the perennial Eastern Conference teams, but they're firing coaches on a winning record. Like that's crazy. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would not have imagined that had been the case. But, it just goes to show how far Milwaukee's come as a franchise. Okay. How much Giannis has developed, how much say Giannis has in the organization. Like that aspect of it is crazy to me. But
yeah, and I see it as like the Bucks want to win. Obviously, every team wants to win. That's like a pretty standard thing if every team wants to win. But the Bucks, I feel like, especially like John Horst in the front office, if they see like one thing that could somewhat wreck their chance of going to the finals, let alone winning the finals, I think they get rid of it. Where it's like it's not worth trying to work around it instead of just dump it. Adrian Griffin was not going to, like, if they realistically do, if he's going to keep this up, we don't see a chance winning, boom, he's gone. If this player is not going to produce in the the remaining of the regular season into the postseason, let's trade him. If this guy's going to help us, let's try to trade for him. It's like the gears are clicking and they just need to capitalize on it. And clearly this is the start of it, because if they don't see him working out, all right, let's fire him and try it again and hope that this is now going to work. But I just think the whole hiring process was extremely rushed. And I feel like when other guys were starting to hire or take jobs otherwhere, they just, all right, let's just get him before he goes somewhere else. Clearly that didn't work. But yeah, we'll see. But I don't know if you have anything else, but the two primary targets got Doc Rivers, who's the lead runner. And Doc Rivers, if you remember, way from the beginning of the season, was one of the guys I didn't want. And the other guy I saw is Kenny Atkinson, who I think was the head coach for the Nets and is now the Warriors assistant coach. But again, I think he was like a runner-up for Adrian Griffin as well. But yeah, I just don't know about Doc Rivers. And I just feel like that wouldn't be helping them at all, knowing his playoff history. Clearly he has a championship, but when you have, it's like a Budenholzer situation. When you have these, like you have prime Paul Pierce, prime Kevin Garnett, prime Ray Allen, it's like you're going to have a pretty good chance of making or winning the finals with these guys. But yeah, we'll see. But I just don't know if I would want him as the head coach, knowing his past playoff experience.
So I do want to add a couple of things. So the first thing I want to add is, so Joe Prunty is going to be the interim head coach for the moment.
Yep.
It could be a Lakers 2012, 2013 situation where you probably don't remember this, but you know, my brain's weird, so I do. Is that they fired Mike Brown like 5 games into the season. And they made Bernie Bickerstaff their interim coach before hiring Mike D'Antoni. Obviously, if you guys remember, you know, there was a lot of criticism that, oh, why didn't they hire Phil Jackson back? Well, you know, that
ship had sailed.
that ship had kind of sailed. So, but now it's like Joe Prunty at the moment is the interim assistant coach. Now, do I expect him to be the interim coach the rest of the year? Probably not, because I think Milwaukee's championship aspirations. And why would you just fire? You're not going to fire Adrian Griffin for Joe Prunty.
Yes.
Like, now, do I think Joe Prunty is probably a steadier hand? I think he could be.
I do too.
But, you know, and as we mentioned before, okay, it's Doc Rivers and Kenny Atkinson. Right now, if you put a gun to my head, right now, I would say give the job to Doc Rivers. And here's why. I understand he's had playoff failures, okay? That cannot be overstated. Doc Rivers has failed a lot of times in the playoffs. He's blown multiple 3-1 leads. Okay. But if you're asking me like who I think is more suited to coach a veteran team, it's Doc Rivers.
Yes, that's what I see around that too.
Like Doc Rivers has done it before. Kenny Atkinson could be a good coach, but I think he's more suited to coach a younger team. Like I just think Doc Rivers, like being around Rondo, being around Ray Allen, being around Paul Pierce, being around Garnett, okay, and even with the Sixers, you know, being around James Harden, being around Embiid, okay, like I think Doc Rivers in Milwaukee could work, because I think maybe the thing that really got in the way for Doc Rivers is the egos that he had to deal with. He had to deal with the ego of James Harden, okay? And even going back to the big three, there was egos there. There's no egos in Milwaukee, okay? They just want to win. And, you know, and Jesus, even go to L.A., okay? You know what? You don't think Kawhi and Paul George have egos? Yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely do have egos. So I don't want to put all of it on Doc Rivers, like, oh, he's won multiple 3-1 leads, blah, 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 blah. Because here's the thing. He's dealt with a lot of guys with a lot of egos, and they just couldn't put their differences aside. You're not going to have that in Milwaukee. Okay? People want to look at the playoff failures, but Doc Rivers is a damn good coach. Like, he's going to get hired again.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
By somebody. Same thing with Budenholzer. Budenholzer will get another job because because you can kind of overlook the fact that you fail in the playoffs because shit, we had a good regular season. So, if Doc Rivers would be the best choice to lead this team because Doc Rivers is a leader. Okay, people respect. Like, I've never heard people say Doc Rivers has lost the locker room. People respect the hell out of Doc Rivers, and you knew that this analyst thing for him was going to be a short-term thing because in his heart of hearts, he's a coach. And I think he's a damn good one. Like, you're not going to be like Phil Jackson. We're going to win like a crap ton of championships.
Yeah.
Fail at the playoffs at some point. And, I just think that those guys would like a coach like Doc Rivers because I just think he's a really good motivator. And I just don't think Lillard's ever had a guy like that, like a motivational coach like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the big thing with Adrian Griffin, Doc Rivers, I know when they said like what they're basically looking for in a coach is someone who's accomplished and someone who can work with veterans. Again, Doc Rivers wouldn't be my ideal, but I feel like in this situation, obviously you don't have a lot of options out there. But if you are looking for someone who is good with veterans, obviously you have to go with Doc Rivers. You have Giannis, you have Lillard, heck, even throw in like Jay Crowder and Brook Lopez too. You have those veteran players as well. I feel like knowing his past, I feel like it would make more sense. Now, ideally long term, who knows? But I'm assuming Doc Rivers will be the next coach based off of reports and how things are going. Again, not opposed. Wouldn't be my favorite option. But at this point, we're going to have to take anything if we're going to want to make a playoff push. And obviously his playoff pass isn't the best, but we know he can get to the playoffs, and who knows the difference between having this Bucks team and, I don't know, your Clippers big three, Lob City, or your James Harden and Joel Embiid issues. But who knows? Maybe it could work, maybe it won't. But at this point, again, it's going to have to be him. It's not going to be Joe Prunty. It's not going to be some other interim hire that'll be for the rest of the season. But who knows? Who knows? But again, not opposed to it. He's a Marquette guy, so familiar with the city of Milwaukee itself as well. So we'll see. I'm assuming a hire will be here faster than we know, just so they're not dragging it for a while. I think Joe Prunty coached 4 games and he won all 4. But it's almost also a fun fact. It's almost on the anniversary of the Jason Kidd firing. I think the Jason Kidd firing was like a few days ago. But who knows? I'm assuming Doc Rivers, I feel like they're like 90% in on him at least. But who knows? Mm-hmm. I just think the Bucks are going to be a different looking team in the next week or two.
Yeah, and actually, I did want to read this excerpt because I did not want to leave this out. This is actually from The Athletic. So here's this little piece from The Athletic. So it says, while the Bucks had compiled a 15-6 record leading up to their trip to Las Vegas and made their way to the semifinals of the in-season tournament, Bucks leadership organized a meeting between Griffin and Rivers, who was broadcasting the in-season tournament games for ESPN. Per league sources, the organization believed Rivers, a 24-year NBA head coach and NBA champion with the Celtics in 2008, would be able to offer Griffin advice and guidance on how to navigate his first NBA season with high expectations and a championship caliber team in their Las Vegas session. So, not only do they really like Doc Rivers, even a month or two into his coaching tenure, they basically had Doc Rivers like counsel Adrian Griffin, hey, this is Like, I know this is a tricky situation here, you have expectations and all this stuff, but like, let me help you navigate your way through it. Now that Adrian Griffin's out of the picture, that does kind of open up a pathway for Doc Rivers to take over as the new Bucks head coach.
They knew.
Like, I think that they knew the situation was kind of tenuous with Griffin. It's like, I don't know if this guy's gonna figure it out. So it's like, but we got old Doc Rivers right in our back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made that situation it's like, Doc Rivers is counseling Adrian Griffin on his first NBA season. Interesting. So yeah, we'll have to see what happened. That obviously there was some other stuff in there too, including, Brook Lopez's defensive role, just the lack of synergy between Lillard and Giannis. I don't know. It was a lot in there. If you guys have time to read, go check out the Athletics piece on why they fired Adrian Griffin. I will say this: I love reading stories like that because it's just, you can't just fire like there's always a reason to fire a coach. So
yeah,
just so it was that aspect of it was interesting to me. So. Evan, you got anything else?
No, we had our Cavs, Pistons. Now we're back to Cavs, both at home. And then, let's see. So today's Tuesday. So we'll have a Wednesday, a Friday, and a Saturday game this week. So we got Cavs, Pelicans. We'll see. Obviously, if there's something in between that happens trade-wise or coach-wise, we'll probably have an update for it. If not, we'll be back after probably the next 2 Cavs games.
Yeah. So that's crazy. And kind of reading one more thing on this. And apparently Giannis, according to Mark Stein, said that he didn't want to play for Nick Nurse.
Yes, I did see that too.
So, I think the interest for Bucks fans and Nick Nurse was kind of lukewarm because it's like, well, what is he? I mean, it's not a horrible coach, but I was like, oh, Nick Nurse. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would have hated it, but based on the options we have now, it's like, oh, goddamn, we should have hired Nick Nurse.
Yeah, we should have hired him.
So, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Milwaukee Bucks at Tap podcast. See you guys this week or next.